Welcome to the Aging Confidently podcast. I am so glad you're here. I'm Karen Weaver, your host, and let's just jump right in. Today we're talking with Katie Johnson, who, full disclosure, Katie Johnson is one of my best friends. We went to Clemson together. We were roommates at Clemson together, so we have a lot of stories about each other. She would entertain me endlessly with Broadway reviews on the desk and trying to distract me from doing my homework. But we've had a lot of good times together. I know her family well, and I've always admired Katie's family culture, basically. And I've asked her to talk a little bit with us today about how she, growing up, and looking back now as a mom, how her family culture was built, how that kind of influences her family today, and any tips and tricks or things that her parents did, and maybe things she's doing now that could help us out. So, first of all, though, I always believe that learning how other people's stories often inspire our own. So I want Katie to just talk a little bit with us about how she got to where she is today.
Thank you, Karen.
Yes.
I'm so excited to be here, and your studio's lovely. I mean, just really appreciate you letting me be here today. I was blown away when you gave such great words about my family. I feel like one of the biggest reasons that I do have such a close-knit family is being an Army brat. And so a lot of that just had to do with necessity of when you moved, and this, you don't have to necessarily be an Army brat. It could be someone who's heavily involved with a corporate job where they had to move around a lot. But, when you moved to a new city and you didn't have a whole lot of friends, you really relied on your parents. So one thing that we had was just a closeness. We also would do a lot of things together as a family on the weekends or during the week where we made specific efforts to be together as a working pod of four. And we joke, my husband jokes that he's never seen anyone move around together when we're together for a family reunion or together for a football game, that we always all just kind of seem to be together.
And you like to be together.
And we like to be together.
Yeah.
We make one another laugh. Humor's
Yes.
a big,
Oh my
big
gosh.
part of that, like
Yes.
making each other laugh. Spending time around the dinner table, it was always a priority. I remember my dad used to work pretty far away from the house when we lived in Northern Virginia. He worked in the Pentagon. By the way, I'm an Army, if I didn't already say that, I am an Army brat. And so we would wait until he got home at night to eat. And sometimes it would be 9:30, 10 o'clock.
What did y'all do as kids? I mean, were you just like beating down the counter?
I don't remember us
It being
beating
a
down
thing?
the counter. I
Yeah.
think we were so involved in all these activities, sports and drama, and you mentioned my singing Broadway shows.
Should we do a little something?
Right, I know. Oh, the one I used to sing to Karen all the time was from a chorus line.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm not singing. But
come on, do a
no.
little.
In fact, as I look around the studio, I'm seeing that there's some props, or what look like props from Wicked.
Oh.
Is that what that is?
Oh, I don't know.
The green, the Wizard of Oz? Anyway, we digress. So the biggest part of that family culture was that we wanted to be around one another, that we made efforts to be around one another and to support one another, be able to go to each other's events and activities. And, I struggle with that now as a parent. My husband travels a lot with work, and I now have a job where I'm working, and our children are at the ages where they're doing different things at different sides of town, and so you still want to try to find a way that we can all be together and support one another. And it's not easy, but I think the value in creating a good family culture is making that important. Chris and I were just talking today about how we need to get rid of our phones. I mean, literally, if we could all get rid of our cell phones in our house, that where we see our teenage son and daughter and ourselves in our lack of communication these days and our lack of connection and intimacy is because of technology.
Yeah.
So we had a long talk this morning about what are we going to do, and let's do it the right way. Let's make it a group discussion around the table. But how are we going to re-engage and connect as a family? So it's a constant work in process. About
especially with teenagers, because you think about the iPhone's only been around 10, 11 years. You have, how old are yours?
14 and 13.
14 and 13. Mine are 19, 17, 15. So they have grown up with cell phones. They don't know anything different. So it is hard to, you are going against the grain, let's just put it that way, because so many parents kind of don't do that,
Yeah.
or they just get tired. I'm one of them. I'm so tired by the time, my third is 15, like I said, my oldest is 19. I'm exhausted.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
I'm exhausted. So I think that's great to be intentional about. You have to be intentional about it. Are there things that you can remember, like doing around the dinner table growing up, that you still do now? Or, because I know you guys are a funny family, you and your brother, mom and dad. Was there anything that kind of, any rituals or traditions?
Well, we don't have those rituals now. I wish we did.
Mm-hmm.
We have a different type of ritual in our house.
Okay.
It's a different type of sense of humor now with Chris and the kids than I had with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
But you were right. We would make each other. My fondest memories of childhood were that laughter, where you can't stop laughing, and then it makes somebody else laugh hard at the table. That happened at our dinner table once a week.
Yeah.
And I miss that tradition. I can't remember the last time I had that kind of laugh. Well, I actually can remember, but it's not appropriate. But with Chris and I and the kids, it's a little bit more ribbing one another, and which is okay too. I mean, healthy ribbing, and I'm learning how to adjust to that. How a little bit of sarcasm, and I don't know, just that fun-natured kind of poking and prodding one another. That happens more around our table. And we laugh. And Charlie's our big jokester, my 13-year-old son, Charlie. He loves telling stories. And he's got more Cox in him than he's got Johnson.
Yeah.
And so I love to see the connection between Chris and the kids, because he's not around all the time as much as I have been. So that's a good time for us to be, together.
Yeah, that's great.
And to catch up. Yeah.
So, I know you are still volunteer extraordinaire, have been a stay-at-home mom, but barely staying at home. I think the husband threatened divorce at one point if you signed up for one more committee.
Yeah. And I don't blame him. I wanted to divorce me too.
I guess my question is now, so you've done that, and now just in the past 2 years, you've transitioned back into the workforce, finding a job that still very much is mom of younger kids friendly, like still being home. And I know it's pretty incredible. You put together this checklist, and this job checked all the boxes. So that's fantastic. What can you, and that's part of aging, right? That's part of aging confidently, is as the kids get to new stages, we should always be looking at ourselves and what's that next stage? How are we going to set ourselves up for when they go off to college? What are we going to be doing? But not just waiting for them to do that, not waiting for them to go off to college to do that, to kind of, again, it's all about living intentionally with that plan. So with that being said, I know you have this job. It may not be your career, but it's something that I know are enjoying and growing in. And I'd love to hear kind of what that transition looked like for you from being the stay-at-home mom where your schedule was your own to now having to be someplace.
That is an awesome question. And if you want genuine and honest emotion in this podcast, forgive me if I get upset, because it was a pivotal moment in my marriage and in my family life, where my husband looked at me and he said, okay, let me back up and say that I enjoyed volunteering, but I'd become burned out.
Yeah.
And I was heavily involved, as you mentioned. And I always wanted to go back to work, but because of the volunteering, that just pushed off what I had set as a goal for myself. And not in a negative way, by any means. I was very happy and delighted to be involved in my community, in my church, in whatever it may be. But I remember when Chris said to me, "You are miserable." And at first I thought, that can't be true. I can't really be putting off this emotion, because I didn't feel like that's the way it was supposed to be. But he was dead on. And so...
Hold on, how did you react when he said that?
I think I was about to say I hated it, but I really was put off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
you were
true.
offended,
I was a little bit offended.
Yeah, okay.
I thought, how dare you tell me
I'm miserable.
that I'm miserable? But he was completely right.
Yeah, right.
And I think a lot of times you have that initial reaction, and then you take a step back and you do a lot of self-reflection, and you say, my gosh, I am miserable.
Right.
I was sick of cleaning. I was sick of cooking. I was sick of volunteering. I was sick of everything. And I was not taking care of me, as you said. You begin to realize there comes a time when you've been a mom and a wife, but have you been Katie? Have you been yourself? And so I started to do little things along the way there to get back to self, but it wasn't until I went back to the workforce that I finally thought, okay, this is for you now. And you mentioned it. It's a job that allows me a lot of flexibility. I can work 9 to 3. I'm home in the afternoon still. My second job, by the way, is mom Uber, right? I'm a Uber, driving the kids to their various activities. But I love that because I can listen to them in the car. It's a good connection time. I can hear what their friends are saying. I've only got 1 more year before my daughter is driving.
Yeah.
But going back to work helped me, as you mentioned, find a path back to what is it like to be a provider in the house? What is it like to feel independent again? What is it like to re-engage and connect with other grown-ups and adults? I happen to work in an interesting job where I work for a criminal defense attorney who specializes in DUI. And so I've learned a lot just about the law and about our community and about what it means to be a criminal or what it means to have empathy, what it means to have a lot of different things. Where I always wanted to go back and work in a law firm. I didn't think it would be this kind of law firm, but I'm excited that the opportunity presented itself. And I've also picked up a few side jobs here and there, just to help pay for things and to feel connection, especially with women. I was doing a lot, you and I were heavily involved in kind of that multi-level marketing where we were able to get together with women and just be in community while also trying to make them look and feel young and better and beautiful. So, I that's kind of an honest answer to going back to work. I wasn't dragging my heels, but I was a little bit shocked that it was time for me to go back to work.
What was the biggest transition point for you? Time management?
Time management.
Yeah.
It still is.
Yeah.
A year and a half in. How do I get a hot meal on the table? I mean, I commend, everybody always says, oh, the stay-at-home mom, she works so hard. And she does. And the stay-at-home dad.
We've both been that, so years.
So I always thought, while the working mom, it was pretty impressive to me to not only work, but then to do all the other stuff.
Right.
Be the driver, again, we're talking about women here, but I know there are a lot of men who share in those responsibilities. But so the biggest transition was definitely time management. Yeah. And I need to figure out how to continue to take care of myself. There were some things that I gave up in going back to work that were health and wellness management, working out or spending more time, going to get your hair cut and things like that you do to make yourself feel good. I have really not found a way successfully to fit that into my schedule just yet.
Yeah.
With it being, flawless, or you know what I'm trying to say?
Too disruptive of the rest of the schedule. Yeah, I can understand that. So for this next kind of chapter of your life, or as you have gotten back into the my first question actually would be, from working in the law office, have you seen any aspects of that job that once your kids are truly off and in college on their own, do you know what you might want to do next?
I've started to think about that, but I'm not quite sure yet. I know that I'm not going to do this job forever. Yeah. And I have a wonderful attorney who looks at me and says, I know you're not going to be here forever. And he appreciates the time, and I appreciate the time that he's given me. But yeah, no, I'm definitely planning on doing something else. I have a little side job selling CBD oil, which of course is an industry that's growing. But again, that's kind of a side business. I'm enjoying doing that as something to fall back on, but I still would like to do something that would fit into what I'm doing at the law firm. I always loved marketing and advertising when I was in it, and even corporate sales training. Yeah. So that wouldn't be something that I would be opposed to going back into.
And I think it's interesting too, as we're getting older, so much, we've lived, 45 plus years, that half of the battle is figuring out what we don't want to do. So it's nice to be in this next half where we know what we like to do and what we're good at. I mean, and we can say it. I'm good at this and this and this. I've done it. I've proven it over and over again. And so I think it's fun. Like, that adventure piece is so much fun. And I really hope that people look at the next chapter after the kids are grown and gone as an adventure and as an opportunity and something that's wonderful, that can be the best chapter. I mean, I was listening to a podcast, and I was listening to the podcast about Kentucky Fried Chicken, and that the Colonel didn't fry his first piece of chicken until 67. 67. But you think about Kentucky
That's
Fried Chicken being
fantastic.
ever. Right. So, I mean, there's time, I guess is what I'm saying. So it's great that you're in it and kind of learning about yourself. And the more people can do that, I think it's very fulfilling. So good for you for getting back out there, because it definitely takes some courage.
Well, to interrupt you there
Yeah.
on that point, I have seen more of my friends who went to college for one degree
Yeah.
and have completely shifted careers. And they're doing now what they
Right.
have found is their passion.
Right.
Especially, you are doing that. So there is hope. I see it all around, and it does give me hope. A bucket list item that I'd like to do is do a TED Talk. I don't know yet what it would be about, but that would be a bucket list thing for me.
would be
But that's not a career. That's just a
It's a great, but that's a
That's
fun
just
goal.
something to-
That's a great goal
to strive for.
Yeah, and then because you're also then have a life of curiosity with that goal being in mind, looking at that interests me. That's makes me curious. So that's where you're going to find your TED Talk. Is being curious about just life in general.
Sure.
As you're looking at that, kind of with that frame of reference. So. But you're right. There are so many people. I tell my kids now that are going to college, I'm like, the chances of you doing what you're going to get a degree, unless you're a doctor, or, well, even a lawyer. My goodness, I know. We have a friend that was a very high-powered attorney that's now doing something completely different. But there is no one path.
Yeah.
And there is some freedom in that, and I think too, if we can just relay that to our children. I know we're all over the board with this particular podcast, but who cares? If we can convey that to our children in a, kind of take the stress off, and you don't have to know what you're going to do in college. Just pick something. Just start somewhere, and you're going to figure out whether you like it or if you hate it. And then you change it and you move, and that's just the rest of your life. Yeah. So to start that process early, and to let them have that freedom and give ourselves that freedom too, to kind of explore. And anyway, I think that that's super important and helpful.
Absolutely.
What else? Anything with regards to returning?
Returning
anything.
to the workforce.
Yeah, or
well, I was
anything.
just thinking that as you were talking about that and children, one of the things that as I think about the name of your podcast and Aging Confidently, what that has meant to me. I've got a lot of insecurities, like a lot of women, about my outward appearance, and that's things that I struggle with all the time. But what has made me confident in my aging is something that you touched on, and that's that I have this new confidence in the fact that I've got knowledge and wisdom and intuition and experience that I can now share with younger women.
That's right.
And younger men. And I enjoy that, being asked questions. And one of the things recently that somebody asked me was, how do I balance structure and flexibility in a house with smaller children? And I said, well, you set rules that are important to the family that would impact their health and wellness of not only the children, but you and your spouse, and you don't deviate from those.
Right.
And then you have flexibility and fun and all the other stuff. And I can confidently say that to someone because I've now lived it and I've experienced it.
Right.
And I think it's valuable to share as aging mothers, as aging fathers, to share that with a younger generation.
Right.
Or a friend of ours that who's older, who's my age, who just had 2 boys, and it's like, how do I navigate this?
Right.
As an adult, they don't have to be younger, they can be our age, but they have younger children,
Right.
and so they just haven't been there to experience it. Right. So when I think of aging graceful or aging confidently, it truly is that with age comes wisdom, comes intuition, comes expertise.
Yeah.
Comes that experience that you can share it confidently, and it feels good. It feels good to be able to help others.
It does feel good. And really, that's really why I wanted to do this podcast, because the physical, if you've grown up as a beautiful girl and woman, that will go away. No matter how much Botox and fillers you get or any of that. You are eventually going to get old if you're lucky, right? I mean, we have plenty of friends that have passed away in their 40s and who would love to be getting older. So the purpose really is just that, let's take as much off the physical. I mean, I know it's in our face all the time, so it's hard, but take as much off the physical and really go inward and grow beautifully on the inside. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but really try to work on that inside piece, because that's what makes you beautiful as you get older, is the generosity, is the gratitude, is that kind of giving back and helping younger moms or whatever. That's the beautiful part.
Yeah.
And that is aging confidently. Way more, 99% more than the physical.
And also trying not to beat yourself up for those things.
Right.
The goals that you may have set, or the stumbling block that you came upon in your aging process, and those
Right.
things that have, and looking inward at all the goodness and all the things that finding the confidence, finding the things that you're most proud of, and how you can contribute, and
Absolutely.
it helps. You can get down on yourself real quick.
I know.
And just if you gotta, as long as you're able to spring right back out and say, you know what, I'm not gonna go down there. I'm gonna.
That's right. It's mindset for sure. I know you're a big podcast listener and book reader and stuff. Are there any resources that you have found that have been helpful through this process of, or entertaining? If you need a good laugh when you're driving down the road.
I joke that I listen to podcasts all the time.
I know.
But I'm also willing to skip through a lot of podcasts. That's a great question.
Are there any favorites that come right to
I
mind?
love Dak Shepard.
Okay.
What have I been listening to? I've been trying to listen to a lot of, Brene Brown.
Yeah.
I love, but I love a lot of Christian podcasts that I don't wear my faith on my sleeve very much, but I'm not afraid at all to say that I'm a believer, and a lot of times when I'm not confident in my abilities, I'm able to say it doesn't matter what my abilities are.
Right.
I just have to be. I just have to believe that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of that, a lot of podcasts that just touch on faith and
Kind of lift you up when you need it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of friends that are doing podcasts now, and so I think that podcasts are a great way to, like you said, searching on whatever it may be that you're thinking about, or that you're feeling.
Yeah.
You can find it out there.
You're not
and
alone.
You're not
For
alone.
sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. Well, this, honestly has been my first test run, and I have loved having Katie on here. This is a conversation that she and I would have sitting at our local watering hole called Community Tap over a beer. This is kind of the stuff that we talk about, and I know you guys do too. So I appreciate you listening, and if you've learned something today that's been helpful, I would ask you to share this podcast with your friends. If you don't mind going on and subscribing, rating, reviewing, we are just getting started. I have a lot of great guests lined up. And we are going to actually be live here the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 10 a.m. Eastern. So if you want to be a part of that, you can go to the Aging Confidently Facebook page and just follow that. That's where it'll be live, and we will be watching comments real-time streaming. If you have anything that you want to learn about, please post it there. And I really would like to create a community where we can support each other and know we are not alone in this aging journey. So we are all beautiful and have so much to offer this world, especially when we come from a place of gratitude and confidence. So let's age confidently together and turn the so-called midlife crisis into a midlife inspiration. See you next time.